Welcome to Wager Talk TV. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Steve Merrill and Teddy Covers of WagerTalk.com. All right, we got a lot of double-digit favorites this week in the NFL, and this is one of them. We've got the Chicago Bears, 12.5-point underdogs at the Bucs. Teddy, I'm going to start with you first. I don't want to get involved in this game. I was on the Bears last week in a spot. My buddy talked me into him, said, you know what? They always play tough in Soldier Field when it comes to the Packers. You know what? They were wrong. Aaron Rodgers was right. He owns his Bears team. Now they're coming off that ugly loss, and they've got to go play last year's Super Bowl champs. 12.5 points is a ton, but as our good friend Ralph Michaels likes to say, double digits since 2015 have actually been profitable in the NFL.
Oh, they've been very profitable in the NFL. And if you're looking at short-term, it's not even a short-term sample size anymore. You know, we're not talking about a year or two. We're talking about the last 5 or 6 years in the NFL, where if you're blindly playing double-digit favorites, you're blindly covering basically more than 60% of the time. And I think the numbers are even higher than that. 65%, 67% has been good so far this year. I've cashed a big ticket, a 5% big ticket on Tampa Bay as double-digit chalk already this year. And it wasn't a right side winner, but the Bucs were lucky enough to get not one, but 2 interception return touchdowns in the fourth quarter to get the money against Atlanta. But when you have a superior team, they're capable of doing stuff like that. The problem with Tampa right now, and it's a real problem, all right, this team doesn't have a modest injury issue in the secondary. They have a huge injury issue in the secondary, all right, with basically their entire cornerback room from opening day out, questionable, doubtful. They're going to have all kinds of issues covering receivers downfield. The question is whether the Bears are capable of taking advantage of that. We saw, and I was with you on Chicago last week, Kelly, and we saw a game plan that, in my mind, wasn't one of the better ones that we've seen. But more than anything, we saw a bunch of weird plays and freak calls. And, you know, was the guy offsides when Justin Fields thought he had a free play and threw an interception in the end zone? He was. Did the flag get thrown? He didn't. There were a handful of plays like that, real impact plays that were just fairly random for Chicago last week. They do have a good defense, and I think they might be capable of hanging within this number, especially now that everyone that backed them last week doesn't want any part of them. Yeah, it's Bears or pass for me, but this isn't one of the more attractive games on the betting board for NFL Sunday for me personally this week.
Steve, another one of the things that our buddy Ralph alluded to was these double-digit favorites are also correlated to the under. I know you like to play a lot of totals. Current line is 47. Do you have an opinion here?
Yeah, it's funny we're talking about a double-digit favorite because Teddy Covers and myself on Thursday afternoon hosted Wager Talk Today, and we brought this up with Ralph when he appeared on Wager Talk Today. And watch that, by the way, here on Wager Talk TV on the replay on YouTube. And he said, yeah, it's about 70% with the double-digit favorites the last 5 years. I think it's 21-9 the last 30 or so. Yet it's 67% to the under in those same games. You can actually hear me off camera go, wow, because normally when big double-digit favorites are covering, it's correlated to the over, you know, because you got to get enough points to cover the big point spread. So very strange that you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned it, Kelly, that the unders have been hit and yet the favorites have been covering. Bears, very challenged offensive team, although we have seen maybe a little bit of a buy sign with them here in recent weeks with Justin Fields playing a little bit better. Didn't quite play as well last week against Green Bay. I'll say one thing that's interesting. I might fade the public NFL video up every weekend here. Of course, it's done very well, hit over 70% fading the most public teams the last year or so. The Bears have been a play against team quite often for the public this year. In fact, there's only been 3 public underdogs all season. One of them was the winless Detroit Lions when they were playing Chicago. That's how little the public likes Chicago. Yet what is interesting, there has not been a single double-digit point spread in my video this year. The public gets away from these games. I think that's another reason why the favorites have been covering, because they don't necessarily play the favorites or dogs in these games. And once again, Tampa's been a very public team. The Bears have been a play against, but guess what? This doesn't look like it's going to make my video this weekend. It's kind of a neutral game. It's a tough call here. I do think Tampa has bigger fish on deck. Obviously, a big look ahead at New Orleans next week. They're coming off the weeknight game against Philly. Yes, a little bit of extra rest, but that was still a spotlight Thursday night game. So on the surface, this is one of those sandwich letdown spots for the double-digit favorite. And Chicago has shown some fight in recent weeks. And even last week, they only lost by 10, in which a game they did not cover. So double-digit dog could bite in this one.
Thank you to Steve and Teddy. As Steve alluded to, both guys on Wager Talk today, almost every single day here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel.